Don't be a panicking.
Make America great again.
Good evening. Welcome to K Cube. I am Ken.
I'm Kevlon. We are happy to be with you all today. We just thought we would start this off a little differently because we are in a different spot than we normally are.
That
Right
is
now,
true.
the old veil is being lifted, Ken.
Oh yeah. I mean, eyes are starting to open now, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, my black MAGA, old buddy up there in Atlanta. He hit me up yesterday, man. It was atrocious. We went back and forth, and he was talking about, have you checked your 401k today and all that, because it had blew back up. I knew it was a pseudo blow up at the time because it's the regular old pump and dump. Of course, it was going to drop right back down today because they just pumped it up so that they can scrape money off the top and keep going, buy low, sell high, the whole economics 101, stock market trading 101.
I call it uh what is it? What is it called? Oh, market manipulation 101. That's what they call
Right.
it.
Oh yeah, I typed that quite a few times in our little exchange, and it ended him saying that I'm just telling lies and fear mongering. Yeah, he
Yeah.
said I was a fear mongerer, and so this morning I texted him back and I said my fidelity is fear mongering again. Harder to deal my ass.
And it's so funny, man. You see the old seals on Fox News clapping it, and
Yeah.
preaching. Y'all don't understand it. If you don't see he's playing 8-dimensional chess on y'all. Well, no, he's
Yeah.
getting smacked around. Turns out that you know he couldn't run the stock market in the ground successfully without the bond market catching up with him, and that's what called his bluff and made him go back and put a 90-day pause on and run back with his tail between his legs, looking ridiculous again.
Right. Yeah.
Tariffs on, tariffs off, tariffs on, tariffs off. One of the worst things we can have in our economic uh, diaspora, and one of the things that was the strength of the Biden administration. Yeah, I get it. He was old. Yeah, I get it. But one of the strengths that they had was you had certainty. Things moved in a positive direction. It's like a ship. You don't teleport to another place. You get in the water and you pedal and you move in the right direction, and eventually you will end up there. Now, if you're going to a place in the north, but then you veer off to the southwest, a great majority of the time, that is not only going to either lengthen your trip or is going to make it to where you will never show up at that point of the north where you intended to go.
That's right. Yeah. Uh-huh. And doggone Captain Crunch over there, that what guy we got now. I mean, where are we headed, people? Where y'all headed? That man invented an entire trade war. He just made it up. I told Black Maggie yesterday. I said, so what do you think? I said, so you're. I said they baited you in, first of all, by hating the same people that you hate, all the way to the point now to where they just tell you who to hate, and you just hate them anyway, just because. I'm like, dude, you're gone, man. You're in a cult, man. Like, you don't have no qualms with no trade doggone war against nobody. That's how he's like, well, they charging tariffs on us. I said, so how does that hurt you when China charges its people more money for American goods? How does that hurt you? I mean, of course, we're going to have a trade deficit. We buy more stuff. We spend more money. It's bound to be a trade deficit. We got all the money.
I got a trade deficit. I have a trade deficit with the grocery store. Is that a bad thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the thing is, obviously, trade deficits in and of themselves are not bad. Obviously, tariffs in and of themselves are not inherently bad unless you do them in a haphazard fashion with no regard for a plan that's going to give you a fruitful outcome. So if you go blanket tariffs and then you're going to start a trade war, he did this in the last term. These people who claim to support him, they are being sycophantic because what they do is Every time he says tariffs, they go, yay, tariffs. And then when he says, oh no, we're gonna pause, they go, oh, he's pausing, which is the right thing to do. Well, which one is it? Do you want the tariffs or do you not want the tariffs? You know, you can't have it 8 ways all at once. The bottom line is, what does Trump want this second? That's what I want. That's called sycophantic behavior, cult-like. This is what we're saying. There's no consistency, no actual plan. Trump doesn't know what he's doing. We got a video coming up that's going to show you where his tariff plan derived from. It's rather ridiculous.
Today, of course, you saw what happened in the markets. The Dow dropped more than 2,000 points today. Not a
This
typo.
was the other day.
2,200 points. Yesterday and today are the first time ever that the Dow has dropped 1,500 points or more on 2 consecutive days. 1,600 points yesterday, 2,200 points today. The S&P 500 dropped 10% in 2 days. It dropped 6% today alone. Just for context, whether or not you watch the markets, whether or not you have any money in the markets or retirement account or whatever, just to get a sense of the scale here, I'll give you 2 metrics here to get a sense of the scale. The first one is the circuit breakers. You know about this? The markets have circuit breakers that kick in when things go off a cliff. That's a mixed metaphor, but I think you know what I mean. They call them trading curbs, and they're these shutoffs that kick in automatically and basically stop the market. They stop people from trading for 15 minutes when things have gone unbelievably wrong. And where those circuit breakers kick in, like the threshold of how bad it has to be before the circuit breakers kick in, is when the S&P drops 7% from the previous day's close. Today, the S&P dropped 6%. Had we got to 7, we would have hit the circuit breaker. They would have turned the lights out on the market to try to save us from ourselves. That's one way to understand the severity of what's happened here. And here's another. Look at this. This is the VIX index, VIX. Unlike the stock market graphs where you can tell things are bad when they go down, with the VIX, it's the volatility index. It goes up when things are terrible. It's like the economic crisis meter. And you can see there are just a few big peaks there over time. The first huge peak, that's 2008. That was the global financial disaster of 2008, the worst financial catastrophe since the Great Depression. That's the first big peak. The next big peak is March 2020. That's the equally huge global disaster, right? When the COVID pandemic overran the world, killed millions of people, and basically shut off economic activity like there had been a power outage. So those are the first 2 big peaks there. But now look, new peak. That's now. That's now. That one not caused by the biggest financial catastrophe since the Great Depression or a global pandemic that's killing millions of people. That one caused simply by Donald Trump being president. Again, with his great ideas. And the scale of what he's doing, the scale of the destruction that he has wrought is a little bit hard to get your head around. I mean, like you can see the headline writers scrambling to try to find the right words tonight. I mean, here's the Wall Street Journal front page right now. U.S. stocks plunge deeper, capping worst week since 2020, which again was the pandemic. Trump's tariffs set off 2-day sell-off as recessionary fears mount. More than $6 trillion erased from market.
Yeah.
$6 trillion erased from the market. Oh, buddy.
Now,
yes,
I
sir.
want y'all to take yourselves and hop into the Wayback Machine and just picture in your mind, Sleepy Joe loses $6 trillion in the stock market over a 2-day period.
Yes.
What would y'all have said? Be honest.
Well, man, look, the stock market doubled from the time it went from Trump to Biden to the end of his first 4 years. It doubled.
Yeah.
And they still Trump and them were still saying it was horrible. Man, this is the worst economy we're
terrible. We got to do a 360 to turn this thing around.
Yeah, nation in decline.
We got to go back in the other direction.
Yep, the DEI is killing us.
We got too many
playing sports.
We got a woman pool player that's actually a man, and this doing this to the world. Look, we got to take this stuff seriously, man. All Trump had to do was come in and go play golf every day, and we wouldn't have had this. And the thing about it is, when your 401k gets hurt, Ken, and the stock market goes back up over time, that doesn't necessarily mean that your 401k is going to be replenished. Your 401k lost value. So now it all depends on where your money is sitting and where your future money goes, whether or not you're going to see that increase. So you have to become a predictor to get your money back where it was.
Right.
So it's just like when the economy tanked after COVID, there was no guarantee that all of those jobs were going to come back. Industries had to do certain things. The government had to do certain things. The consumers had to be in a certain position in order to be able to buy. Those things were not guaranteed. There were triggers that needed to be pulled. And guess who was sitting in office and pulled them to put us in the spot that we were in before we just tanked? Sleepy Joe. So you can say what you want. Results is what matters.
Right. Yeah, and please don't overlook the current results. If you turn a blind eye to our results right now, you're stupid. You're in a cult.
It's the art of the deal, man. It's like Jim Jones made you pay for the Kool-Aid.
Right.
What this essentially is that the change in tariffs right here that the president has proposed is equal to the country's exports to the U.S. minus the imports from the United States divided by these three things, okay? And you say these two things, the White House has got it completely wrong.
The formula you have there, basically what it does, it divides the trade deficit, which is the numerator here, by total imports, which is the M in the denominator. And then to make their approach look a little more sophisticated, they added those two Greek letters, epsilon and phi. The epsilon they set at 4, and phi they set at 0.25. So they cancel out in the U.S. Trade Representative's report on the matter. Now, they claim that they picked that value for phi, which is the change in import prices when a tariff changes. They claim that they picked that 0.25 based on a result in a research paper, but they picked the wrong number. That number should be close to 1. 1, of course, is 4 times as big as 0.25. So if you put in the right number, the change in the tariff goes down by a factor of 4. And so every tariff they calculated based on this formula is 4 times higher than it should be. I don't think much of the approach makes sense even conceptually, but if we're going to take their approach seriously, if we're going to say we're going to base our tariffs, our entire international trading system on this formula, they have to put in the right numbers and do the calculation correctly.
Have you taken this to them? Do they acknowledge that they have a bum number in here?
Cabinet member has been asked about this. Peter Navarro was asked about this yesterday morning. They have not disagreed with us on the substance. In fact, what we've seen is that senior members of the administration, Steve Myron yesterday, who's the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Scott Bessent this morning, who's the Treasury Secretary, they have both said, we had nothing to do with this formula. That was other people in the administration. And so, normally if you're convinced of the accuracy, the wisdom of your policies, you do not point fingers at other people in the administration and say, they came up with this, we did not.
This has been the lead and
Okay.
When my hair started to thin, I wasn't feeling so confident.
Hey, so Ken, he mentioned Peter Navarro in that video as one source from the White House that they went to explain that ridiculous formula. First of all, the formula itself doesn't make sense to calculate tariff amount. That had something to do with trade deficits divided by mu and alpha, mu cow or something. I don't know. But,
right.
But they reference Peter Navarro. He was in the Trump administration, in the last administration. Turns out he got pulled into the administration because Trump commissioned Jared Kushner to find him a trade advisor, somebody with a Harvard degree, somebody really smart. And so Jared Kushner goes to Amazon and he pulls up books to see who, and he liked the title, you know what I mean? because it said something like American trade dogs. It was some title, some fierce manly title, and he liked it. So he called the guy up, he interviewed him, and he said, "Come on in and join the administration." So it turns out Peter Navarro, he wrote a book that Jared Kushner referenced, and in that book he quotes and cites a made-up character, a person who does not exist, named Vara, V-A-R-A, I think, or Nara Vara, something. But he's quoting a guy that doesn't exist to back up his tariff policy. And that's the tariff policy that agreed most with Trump's approach. Thus, we are where we are. So this is the rank incompetence that's happening at all levels of government. Totally ridiculous. Up and down the government, everybody knows that this approach won't work, can't work. And they throw the purpose out. First, he was talking about stopping fentanyl. Then he was talking about bringing back the manufacturing. Well, as you saw from that first video, and how ridiculous it would look to slap Americans in an iPhone building factory. It looks ridiculous because it is ridiculous. And the Chinese mocked us because they know good and well Americans aren't going to sign up for manufacturing positions that pay less money than informational or service in the service industry does. So it's absolutely ridiculous. The reason that we've moved in the direction of an internationally based economy is because we can get goods from different places for cheaper prices, and Americans don't want their pricing to go up.
Right.
So tariffs are taxes, and the people who buy the end product pay the taxes at the end of the day. So no matter how you look at it, we're looking at an increase in money coming out of the American public, which is effectively a tax increase on Americans. Tariffs are taxes, by the way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they want to use that money to fund their tax cuts for billionaires and millionaires. It's an absolutely diabolical, ridiculous plan. And on top of that, add on insider trading to the mix.
Oh, yeah. All right. These people are wild, man. All right. Yeah, let's check this one out.
Was it the bond markets that persuaded you to reverse course?
I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's beautiful. The bond market right now is beautiful. But I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. I think everything had. Well, the big move wasn't what I did today. The big move was what I did on Liberation Day. We had Liberation Day in America. We're liberated from.
Yeah. You were going to say something?
Yeah, man. For the sake of time, let's just stop it right there. We don't need the guys coming up the next analysis. This is a situation where Trump got smacked around by reality. His plan was to tank the U.S. economy and to drive up prices, but he was going to do it in a way that was going to fund the government and justify his tax cuts. But one thing he didn't consider was bonds. When bonds start falling apart, which basically the bonds are U.S. Treasury bills, we sell them in order to fund our debt spending. And the Japanese own the majority of those, and then China comes in. When they started dumping the bonds, that means that the fundamentals of our economy are getting ready to go haywire. It affects the value of the dollar, our credit rating, everything else, because we now have to pay money to cover the bonds that the other countries are dumping. So that smacked him in the face, and it was a reality that he could not ignore. And this is why he's reverting back to saying that Liberation Day was his big day, his shining day, because that was the day that he sat on TV and implemented a policy. He actually controlled something. He gets a thrill out of having the power to control something. It just so happens that what he was controlling was a detriment to the United States of America, and the reality made him back off of that stupid tariff policy based on a flawed equation that was based on an approach that was inherently decrepit and destructive from the beginning.
Absolutely. Speaking of decrepit from the beginning, we got one more little blip over here. Yeah. So Trump ordered a probe against officials who opposed his election lies. These people were not Democrats. These are the Republicans that helped certify the election when they couldn't find any fraud in the last election. Trump is literally going after these people. President Donald Trump ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi and other top officials Thursday to investigate two of his former first-term officials who publicly refuted his baseless claims that the 2020 election was fraudulent and criticized his chaotic administration from within. Chris Krebs, he directed Trump's cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency. And Miles Taylor, a former senior Department Homeland Security official, are the latest targets in Trump's widening retribution campaign against his perceived political enemies. Trump fired Krebs November 2020 after former CISA head defended the integrity of the 2020 election, while Taylor anonymously wrote a New York Times op-ed later a book detailing the chaos inside the Trump White House. Yeah, he stripped them of their security clearances as well. Yeah, boy, ain't that something?
And so this is in line with if you don't go along with dear leader, I'm coming after you. And from what I understand, and we don't have an article up right this second, but they are also clearing the way or trying to clear the way to deport American citizens to that El Salvadorian prison too. So they want to go after Americans. They might, Ken. We might have to stop KQ.
You got that right.
But
let me
just say this. Once we get there, game over. We're trying to tell you now so that you can, say stand up and make your voice heard so that we don't get there. Believe it or not, the American people have more power than the people in power want us to have. And we have to know what's going on in order to band against it. We have to hold firm to the constitutional structure of this country and the rule of law. And if we do not, if we allow that to fall apart, then we will sacrifice the great America that we've come to know and love.
Amen.
I don't know if y'all want to live in El Salvador or not, but
El Segundo, wherever they're gonna send me. Yeah, they just gonna have two lines, one to El Salvador, and they'll be like, "You get in the other line, boy. You going to El Segundo." All right, see y'all in El Segundo, everybody.
All right, count your pennies, and be safe. And these people work for us, y'all. They don't just run us into the ground. They work for us. They answer to us. So let's hold them accountable. Treat them like you would treat Sleepy Joe if he did the same thing.
Yeah, buddy. Think about your 401k for a change, man. Stop playing. Stop playing with mine anyway. K-Cube.
K-Cubed, everybody. Love you.
1, 2, K-Cube. And all I wanna do 1, 2 is just listen to you. K-Cube Politics 72. Can you dig it? 1, 2 K-Cube. Can you dig it? And all I wanna do 1, 2 you wish just listen to you. K-Cube Politics 72. K-Cube. Can you dig it? 1, 2 K-Cube.